Hey, I'm Jamie Philbrook, and welcome back to Legends of Tomorrow After Show here on theStream.tv. We've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to talk about Legends of Tomorrow. We're going to talk about the Legion of Doom. We're going to talk about time traveling and George Lucas. But first, I want to introduce the great group of guys I got with me today. On my right is PJ.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Patrick Campbell. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's a great episode, and it made me feel a little choked up from my childhood. A lot of good stuff going on in it.
Yeah, and we have over here Alvin.
Back and in full effect for the mid-season. That was an awesome, like you said, choked me up inside too,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. We'll talk about that later, but for now, you can win this awesome poster.
Look at this.
Look at that. When you go to the theStream.tv Facebook group and find out details on how to win this poster. It's dope. Look at that. It's Justice League.
It is. It's so amazing.
On,
You
look
got
at
Green
that.
Arrow, Green Lantern,
It's
Wonder
like the
Supergirl.
It's the best of everything going on in DC right now, really, in a lot of ways, especially on the TV side. I mean,
That's right.
look at it. It's amazing.
Well put, my friend. Well put.
And before we start out, too, we want to give a shout out to Lance Osfresser and the Facebook pages.
Absolutely. Lance is awesome, does so much great work for us. So today, tonight's episode was Raiders of the Lost Art. Very cool episode. Our team travels back to 1967, and there is an aberration, and then we meet George Lucas. Rip Hunter, we get to see a little bit of what was going on with Rip at the beginning, in the first episode of this season, when he became lost in time, and now we find him in 1967, and he is a college filmmaker with George Lucas in Los Angeles. And what did you think about the episode, PJ?
Man, I was really into it. I thought it was a lot of fun. We were kind of talking about it earlier. There was a lot of character development that was a lot of fun and just really worked. I thought we got a lot of development with Rip, and you saw Sarah and their relationship, especially once they meet again. It's so strained because Sarah wants Rip to remember who he is, and I thought that was really special. But there was also what was going on with Mick and Stein, which was really great because we were seeing a side of Mick that maybe we don't normally see.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. The Mick and Stein stuff was great. But what did you think about the group traveling back to 1967?
I mean, that was a lot of fun, you know. That was really a lot of fun. Like we were talking about before, it brings back childhood memories. I mean, just seeing George Lucas in there. Like, from, obviously, like, what George went through with the Legends is how Star Wars came about.
Or almost didn't.
Or almost
Right,
didn't.
so there's a really cool sequence towards the end of the episode where I think it was Steel and Vixen and Ray get caught in basically the trash compactor with George Lucas. And there were a lot of really cool throwbacks in this episode to Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark as well. I think at one point Sarah Lance says a Princess Leia line from
Vixen,
Star Wars.
Vixen actually
Oh, it's
said
Vixen.
It was
well.
Vixen.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't just that. They used a Wilhelm scream at one point, which Lucas made infamous after a while. He used it in all the Star Wars movies. Little nods throughout his entire career, and it was just like the way they played it. It was fun for me because I've grown up on his movies forever. And I mean, they went out of their way to mention Howard the Duck, which I thought was ridiculous and amazing. But
Vixen again. Vixen says the quote of Princess Leia's quote, and she's never even seen Star Wars. But she said it verbatim.
Right. Well, right, because of course Vixen's from 1940 something. So,
She's like from 1947, and then all of a sudden she said that exact same quote from Princess Leia.
But I thought what was really cool with the episode was they did a good job of sort of making fun of, in a sense, the audience that is watching Legends of Tomorrow, right? Kind of playing with us a little bit, because obviously we all love DC Comics as much as we love Star Wars and Raiders and all these different things. And so getting to kind of play with that and make little references and sort of inside jokes that we could pick up on, I thought it was a really cool sort of episode that kind of looked at things in a different way.
yeah, it just really kind of played with what we knew in a good way, because there's always fun to have like gentle ribbing of things that you love, because if it wasn't for a lot of these characters, we probably wouldn't actually have Star Wars, because a lot of the DC comics were a big inspiration for George. You know that growing up, he grew up on serials and heroes, and I kind of like that they played that up a lot, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have gotten Star Wars per the show.
Right.
So it's almost playing with his real life too.
Yeah.
I mean, I even like how the episode started when Rip is directing the bootleg Legends. I mean, it's bootleg Legends. I mean, that was bootleg Randall Savage. So
Oh, yeah, no, I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
that was really great, and they
Yeah.
actually, it's a very sort of meta approach to it.
Really meta, yeah.
When he's shooting, he actually makes the comments. There are some of the negative comments that people made about Legends last year, that Vandal Savage wasn't a good villain, and all these kinds of things. So even when Rip is like, yeah, who would believe that? He's a terrible villain. Like, I just thought that was really kind of neat, the meta way that they did that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think even in the way like Sarah going, man, this sounds like we're in an Indiana Jones movie. Just like the little meta jokes like that too. It was like, yeah, we know we were getting the Spear of Destiny and all these little things, and it just works. It's just a lot of fun.
So the group is in 1967. They are trying to find Rip. They're trying to find the Spear of Destiny, which Rip had at some point before he got lost in time. And at the same time, they have this problem with George Lucas when he gets injured in a fight with the Legion of Doom.
confirmed. It's now.
It is the Legion of
It
Doom.
It is the Legion of Doom
And
now.
so when that happens, then obviously Ray and Nate go through this missing their powers because Lucas gave them their powers as an inspiration. I thought it was really cool the way the Legion of Doom came in, and as you mentioned, Alvin, they were confirmed in this episode.
Confirmed. A Legion of Doom was actually down the block from here, right?
Yeah, just
Right
walking down the
block
street.
from the Stream Studios, right down in Vine Street, and that was actually awesome because when we were watching, we were like, "Wait a minute, that's down the block."
I'm sure they shot that scene in Vancouver, but it was made to look like it was Vine. In
They did a great job
1967.
doing it.
Yep.
But I'm excited. The Legion of Doom is confirmed. We have all three crazy maniacal villains that we've seen before. In
So
the
we've
CW.
got Reverse Flash running the
Reverse Flash,
show.
yep.
Merlyn.
Malcolm Merlyn, that little nugget that won't go away.
Yep, and of course Damien Dahrk.
And Damien Dahrk,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and that I like the way that they've really brought the shows together and used these characters, because the best thing so far about the DC shows for me a lot of the time has been the villains, because you got these guys like John Barrowman who really just he loves to just have fun with the role, and I love seeing him back as Malcolm Merlyn, and I think he interacts really well. I think that they have a lot of great chemistry together between the three of them, and so they're fun to watch.
Well, I mean, you bring up a great point, BJ, because like in the comic books, pretty much with the exception of like Suicide Squad and a couple of books that maybe will be based on the Joker or Harley Quinn or something like that, mostly you're buying comic books about superheroes fighting villains, and those villains go throughout the whole community of superhero comics. So in a sense, what they've been able to create, the CW and DC have been able to create with these shows has been great to have those great villains, one that you set up on Flash, one that you start on Arrow, and then have them come together on Legends, which is essentially a show that just took the supporting characters from all the other shows and put them together. It's been great.
And we're still trying to figure out how they did come about together. I mean, there's a lot of theories out there. I'm not going to go into it, but just having those three, and hopefully there'll be more, because Legion of Doom is usually like a big, huge squad.
Well, I mean, they got renewed for season 3 while we were on break, so
That's
I think
true.
there's a long time for us to actually play with these villains more.
Oh
and see
yeah,
Legion of Doom
yeah.
come
Well,
back.
and that's a really neat thing. And also one of the great things, there's again another meta reference. There's so many meta references in this episode.
yeah.
But one of the great ones was Steele comes up with Legion of Doom, and everyone's like, "Why are you calling him the Legion of Doom?" He's like, "Well, it's this Hanna-Barbera cartoon I watched as a kid."
Yeah.
I mean, again, a meta reference to Super Friends, but I thought that was really neat.
I mean, even when Nate when we first saw him in this episode, it's even like taken aback to him listening to 90s music, and then all of a sudden he's like, Legion of Doom, all right, from Hanna-Barbera, so that's what became about with him. So.
Well, I even like that when they were walking on on campus, and they say it again, and he goes, "Man, I really like that that's catching on, because they all keep saying Legion of Doom. It's just kind of fun, and I like that."
Even though Sarah's not having it.
Yeah, even
Yeah,
though
Sarah's not
having
into it at first.
Yeah.
I mean, Sarah just doesn't want to have any fun. It seems like, it's
Right.
just it's like it's get to business, and this is business, and I mean, she's an assassin. She's a League of Assassins. So.
Speaking of Legion of Doom, though, Malcolm Merlyn, I still never understand what's his whole demeanor. Like, you thought he was going to be good for a little bit, but now he's all out bad guy, and now he's back and just shanking police officers out of nowhere. So what do you think is going on with him? How did he come about in this group and just want to be pure evil again?
I think Malcolm just kind of goes to whoever he is the highest bidder. I think it's whatever makes him happiest, because when he's killing people, he smiles and he thinks it's the best thing ever. So I don't know. I think he just goes wherever he feels the most wanted and needed, and whatever makes him happy.
Well, and you're dealing with time travel, right? So dealing with time travel, I mean, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know when this Malcolm came, when he's getting to this group. You know, we don't really know. So it's an interesting thing to have that time travel as a component of all of this as well.
Right.
It makes it even more confusing, I think.
It's really confusing. I mean, between the time traveling with the legends and then Flashpoint, because that all affects all those characters in every way. So I don't know.
Well,
I'm
you know,
excited
there
to
was
find out,
also
though.
a really cool subplot in this episode, and one of the things I love about Legends of Tomorrow is that all the different characters and the actors that play those characters have different chemistries with each other. And there's a lot of characters that maybe didn't have those chemistries in the comic book stories that we grew up with. So getting to see those characters all come together is really great. So one of the things that happened in this episode is the Stein-Rory relationship. What did you think about that?
I thought the Stein-Rory relationship was really important because for so long we've only seen Rory kind of with the, you know, Captain Cold and his relationship there. But to see him so kind of frantically actually worried about something going on in his head, he doesn't want to be crazy. And you know he's really come to love these people that he's fighting with. And you can tell that he really just wants to have that part of him be good. And he doesn't want to have Captain Cold kind of controlling him. And so for him to come clean to Stein, so honestly come clean to Stein, is a wonderful thing, especially because their relationship's always been on and off. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, what did you
I
think?
mean,
Alan?
talk about a character development and who's better with that character development than Mick.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
especially when we first seen him being like just an evil guy robbing places to now like being kind of like a really good person in the
Oh,
group.
no, forget about it. It's crazy the character arc that Mick Rory has had on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, even from Flash, like you were saying, he was just a villain.
He was just a
but
villain.
now, I mean, he's been Kronos and he's been on the
Yeah,
team.
he's
been
all over it.
And
He
now
has a
he's,
conscience.
You know, he's been flirting with Supergirl
yeah.
and the
Yeah.
Invasion crossover. So it's a really
likes
interesting thing
Vixen.
they've gotten to do with those characters.
Well, and
Yeah.
we even saw a little bit of the Kronos thing tonight, too. They went back to that because they were saying that some of what was happening with him could have even come from the Time Masters experimenting on him. So to see, look how far he's come from that is incredible.
Yeah, and Dominic Purcell does such a good job playing that character. I mean, I think we can all agree.
Yeah,
At best, Heatwave is a third-tier villain in the comic books. So to really bring that character together on screen has been fantastic. The one thing I did think was interesting with the episode was, you know, you've got this big battle that happens at the end with the Legion, and I get that Stein is dealing with Mick and can't be part of Firestorm,
Doing
but
brain surgery?
that's the most powerful
Yeah.
hero on your team. I mean, it just, you know, I would be like, hey, Professor, just a second, we need you. Come on.
Well, I feel like that tends to happen a lot with Legends. Professor's always doing something, and his buddy out there is always doing something with the other Legends, so they're never always together. Because, like you said, they are the most powerful hero in that whole crew, and they should be sticking together like bosom buddies like all the time.
I feel like they separate them a lot so that Victor Garber can have more screen time because obviously if they're Firestorm, he's not on the call sheet that day.
Yeah.
So
Right.
and that's kind of, you know, maybe a scheduling kind of thing. But yeah, that was the only thing where I said in this episode, I was like, well, it would make more sense if you just got Firestorm. But it was a good episode, and the ending we should talk about because it sort of leads to where we might go next week. So the ending of the episode has our heroes get the Spear of Destiny, but the Legion has Rip Hunter.
Oh, it's time for a little bit of a torture, courtesy of the Legion of Doom, might I add. And it looks like they're about to torture Rip Hunter. I don't know in what way.
Brutally. Is
Brutally.
what I would
Brutally,
say.
yeah, exactly. As violently as possible.
I mean, you saw all the knives and things they had at the end. They know what they're doing. And I feel bad for Rip because clearly there's nothing for him to remember. He wiped his memory, at least from what we can tell, he's wiped his memory. And even when they were trying to remind him throughout, Sarah was trying to get him to go, you are Rip Hunter.
Right.
But he never saw it in himself. So for him, he's going to get tortured over nothing because he really doesn't have those memories.
Well, then, how long do you think this is going to play out? I mean, do you think the Spear of Destiny has changed Rip forever, or do you think the real Rip will start to come back?
No, I'll think it'll come back.
Is Phil a permanent character on the show, do you think?
I think it will come back, even when he was acting Rip Hunter. Even though, you know, like, how did he even think about to talk like that, to talk in that kind of demeanor? You know, you know there's something still there subliminally. it can't be just all out, especially the way he confronted the Legion of Doom. So he's definitely going to come back, without a doubt.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see how long they play it out, though.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you guys think about Phil? That's who Rip thinks he is.
Yeah.
Phil.
I kind of liked Phil. I felt
Yeah.
bad for Phil. I felt like Phil kind of got pushed around a little bit, but it's okay because we still like him. Arthur Darvill is fantastic in that role, and I kind of like seeing him do something different because, you know, Rip was so serious all season 1. But I'm with you. I'm wondering how long they can really play this up because, I mean, we're, halfway through the season right now? So I'm wondering if this is something that will actually run to the end of the season because, especially if he's been captured by the Legion of Doom. And what if they get into his head and they try to make him evil?
Well, and it's been an interesting move, too, to have, like, one of the leads of your show not a character in basically the first half of the season.
Especially now when we're just getting used to Sarah as the captain.
Yeah,
so when Rip does come back, or if he ever does come back, what does that mean for, you know, the rest of the crew when Sarah is definitely the captain right now? She's a leader in the ship. So it's going to be interesting.
I also have to say that I like the way that Jack stood up on this episode. He kind of stepped forward, and we see, you know, Jax was very much an interesting character when the show started, kind of not really where he should be. You know, he didn't really know how he fit into the group, and he's really coming into his own.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I definitely agree. I think that it's good to see that character really rising up to being that character. For so long, it felt like maybe he wasn't.
Right.
But to see him rise up that way, it's awesome. And I think that this episode really let us see a lot of the characters kind of have moments like that throughout, too, though. I mean, especially, again, with the Mick relationship, to see him rise up enough to know, hey, I have problems, there's something going on with me. It's great to see them rising to that occasion and really becoming new characters out of it.
Absolutely. So we've got a few minutes left. I know, do we have any questions on the comments section on YouTube?
Not yet, but I'm going to talk about a poll that I surveyed like yesterday, actually. Since this is so appropriate for this episode because of the Legion of Doom, so I asked everyone on the DC Legends of Tomorrow Facebook group who they would want as a Legion of Doom member. Before I get into that, I want to ask you guys, who would you guys want as a Legion
let
of
me
Doom
ask
member?
the question.
Outside of CW and or just
doesn't
original...
have to be a character that's been introduced.
Nope, not at all.
Interesting. Well, I got to go with Gorilla Grodd.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Gorilla Grodd would be pretty cool to have as a member of Legion of Doom.
And
I think
we've
was
seen
a
him.
Legion of Doom member in
He
the...
was.
At
And
one
Super
point,
Friends
yeah.
in
Yeah,
the comics.
Super Friends, and
yeah.
then we've already seen him on the show.
And we've
as well.
seen the show, and we know they can do it. They can do that effect. I don't know about easily, but they can definitely do it.
I don't know how easy they can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of with you, especially because Grodd is a character that we've come to know over Flash, and I think that where I'm coming from, I like that we are getting characters that we've known.
Yeah.
That's what's made the Legion of Doom so cool. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier is I love that we're getting these characters that were fun to watch and seeing more of them. So maybe Gorilla Grodd, there's all sorts of characters that have been on these shows that I would love to see come back. I mean, hey, even try to bring back an Evil Canary.
Yeah.
Oh.
Killer Frost.
Yeah, Killer
Killer
Frost.
Frost
might
would
be
be
good.
awesome in that.
Yeah, they have a lot of great characters, and obviously the DC canon has so many characters they haven't even used yet that they can kind of bring in. But I love your point, PJ, because you're absolutely right. I think the Legion of Doom works better for us as an audience of Legends of Tomorrow because we've met these and we know all these characters from the other shows. Maybe Roulette from CBS, from
absolutely.
Supergirl, yeah.
Yeah, Roulette could definitely work, or Bizarro Supergirl.
Yeah, Livewire even.
Yeah,
Livewire would be a good one.
What the shows are doing so well is obviously what the comic books and the cartoons and everything over the years have done so well, which is build all these different characters, and then sky's the limit of what you can do with them. What did they say?
Right now at 65, we got Gorilla Grodd.
So everyone's
Okay,
on our
Gorilla
page.
Grodd's
Yeah.
He's definitely a popular character. At 35, we got Captain Cold. Now, we don't know what's going on with him. And we're not going to talk about who's got signed later on, who's confirmed or whatever. We're talking about what's going on right now in the show. So right now, a lot of people do want to see Captain Cold in the Legion of Doom. And I was hoping to see that tonight when you saw like the Dark Shadow going on, when you saw Merlyn, and then you also saw Damien.
Right. So Rip's being
Reverse Flash didn't want to torture
right,
them. Yeah.
Right. So they bring in Damien.
So they bring in Damien. And the
Yeah,
way
and
the
I thought there would be more.
The way that build
Right.
was, you're
I
right.
thought
It
at least
definitely
Snart
felt that
would be
way.
there, right?
Right,
Yeah.
the way the camera shot was panning to them, it looks like they were about to pan to another person
Right,
on the
yeah.
shadow. I was hoping that would be the case.
It would have been a
but-
nice reveal had they actually done that too, because especially the build of the whole episode felt like they were, with Mick going, is he real, is he not? For them to pull Snart out of time somewhere, and then all of a sudden he appears in out of the shadows. I know I would have geeked out even harder over the episode than I already did.
Right.
Right,
Now
right.
we know Snart is coming back at some point.
Yeah.
But what I'm curious is about, and I'm curious what you guys think is, there was an explanation that Stein had tonight about what Mick's been going through, and it's hard to kind of tell if Stein's just BSing the explanation or if it's
Yeah.
for real. But what do you guys think? I mean, do you think Snart is plastered around the universe, or what do you think the answer is going to be for bringing him back?
Well, that would definitely make sense because he's like 1,000 million particles all over the galaxy, the way he exploded. So, I don't know, I'm hoping he gets brought back not through like Flashpoint or not through like some kind of time change, but just the way his own body got destroyed. So, I doubt that the Captain Cold of the Captain Cold that was becoming good is going to
Right,
come back.
right, he's gone.
I think he's going to have a whole different mental change. If not, he's going to be that same guy when we first met him. So, well, he'll just come back. So hopefully we'll see that.
So what do you think, PJ?
I actually kind of would like to see that pre-version because I feel like he would never believe that he actually could become the hero that, Mick sees him as now. And I kind of like the idea that in Mick's mind, he's more like the devil on his shoulder. So for me, yeah, I get the scientific fact, but I almost feel like at this point, the Legion of Doom doesn't care about what they're changing in time, so pulling Snart straight out really probably isn't something that would bother them very much. So I could see them doing the same thing and just pulling him out of time and putting him on their team.
Yeah, when I heard that the character was coming back, and obviously the actor Wentworth Miller, that was exactly what I thought. That they were gonna, that Reverse Flash would, add to his Legion of Doom a Captain Cold that has yet to become the heroic Captain Cold that we saw on Legends last year, which also would build a very interesting dynamic with the Mick Rory of now.
Right.
And, would Snart be able to bring him back to where he leaves the Legends and becomes a member of the Legion?
See, and
That's a good
again,
point.
that's a great point, and that's something I would love to see play out over another season because, again, we know it got renewed. That was the big announcement
Right.
while we were all away. I would love to see them go that route and maybe start trying to pull him back as a villain.
Well, Elvin, who else did they have there?
It's Nestro.
Oh, that's interesting.
That is interesting. Now,
It'll never happen, but that's
it'll
interesting.
probably never happen. Now, why do you think it will never happen, aside from obvious reasons?
I think the GL catalog is off limits.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the movies coming down the pike, I think they really want to keep it in-house still.
Even though there's been a lot of
guessing.
Easter eggs with Hal Jordan
Yeah.
and
There
Green
sure
Lantern.
have.
and-
Yeah, but I think that was maybe as much as was allowed was the Easter eggs. And also
Yeah.
notice that the Suicide Squad members were all killed off of Arrow before the Suicide Squad movie launched in theaters.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm not sure how much of a off-limits rule DC has with certain characters and going into film.
Yeah.
Certainly we're going to have a Flash movie and we have a Flash TV show, but
Right.
besides that, I'm not sure how much crossover there's going to be.
And the other ones, which is I find interesting, Lex Luthor, who is definitely alive in a different universe.
And in a different universe, and has been. I mean, he's there. We know
Yeah.
he exists.
Yeah,
we
he
haven't seen
exists.
him physically, but we know the
We
character.
heard about
And
him.
it's something we were just talking about a little bit earlier. Is Lex is a character we know. You don't really have to pre-establish him. And so if we had a Lex who was in this show, it would work. I feel like because you don't have to re-establish him. We know Lex Luthor.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Who else?
And another one is Prometheus, which that is definitely, you could definitely do that. Maybe like next
Prometheus
season.
would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And definitely come together with all the Arrow characters that are part of the Legion of Doom right now. But I think it'll also be interesting to see who Prometheus really is.
Right.
Because whoever it is may not actually make sense in the Legion of Doom.
That's true.
totally.
That's true. So, you know, those are your top 5.
That was it.
And
That was great.
Aside from someone mentioning Donald Duck, but you know.
Well, Donald Duck, we had a Howard the Duck reference on the
Yeah,
episode tonight.
it makes sense.
I feel like that was like the ones dig DC could make at a Marvel comic recently. He's like, remember that Howard the Duck movie?
And
Yeah.
the one that no one at Marvel would argue with.
Exactly,
I think we all are
absolutely.
kind of in agreement.
That's
about
why
that.
it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a couple of minutes left. Anything you guys are looking forward to in the next few episodes?
I don't know. I mean, I just love the dynamic of the characters, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I'm so curious how this is all going to come together because, like you, I'm really wondering what's going to happen with Rip and how long we're going to play this story out because it's already been half the season and we've only had him for one episode.
Right.
And I'm just patiently, like everyone else, awaiting Captain Cold.
Yeah.
I want Snart to come back. Well, if I was Snart personally, I'd stay heroic just because when we last saw him, he was making out with Sarah Lance. So,
Yep.
I mean, why would you not stay heroic for that one?
But I
that's
think
just
it's
me.
been interesting to kind of play with the dynamics of both Captain Cold and Heatwave, who essentially are just straight up villains in the comic books. So to kind of play and have two fantastic actors as Dominic Purcell and Wentworth Miller and be able to watch them kind of create those characters. And I'm sure that the writers didn't even know that they would become heroic at some point, you know, in the first season. And I think it just sort of naturally, organically happens. So
Especially
it's
with
been good to
Captain
watch.
Cold's background in the comics, you know,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
in the cartoons or anywhere you put it. I've never seen Captain Cold stay heroic anyway.
Right. It's never been a concept,
No.
which is what made it so original and so cool.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about this poster one more time,
This
Alvin. Let's show it
awesome
up.
sauce poster that you can win at the Stream.tv Facebook page.
And you guys know you want it. I mean, look at it.
Oh my
It's
God,
amazing.
so cool.
Look at that. Look
It's
at
got
Flash.
Aquaman. It's got everyone.
It's even got
Everyone.
Shazam, man.
It's even got Shazam. We're going to close on It's Even Got Shazam. So I'm Jamie Philbrook. I want to thank you guys for checking us out. Please tune in next week. Please go to the YouTube comment section. Write comments to us. I'm Jamie Philbrook. PJ, Alvin.
Alvin Rueda.
And Patrick Campbell. You can find me on Twitter at PJ_Campbell and my podcast, Real Film Chatter, there as well.
And we also want to give a shout out to Lance.
Osfresser. Lance Osfresser, you're doing a great job.
Lance
with
is
the
our
Facebook
man,
pages.
does an amazing job with our Facebook pages. Please check those out, and we'll see you next week.